Welcome back. Now, earlier today, Parliament approved the nomination of 3 new cabinet secretaries, Mutahi Kagwe, William Kabogo and Lee Kinyanjui. This move has sparked discussions about what their appointments mean for governance, policy direction and service delivery to Kenyans. To shed more light on this significant development, I am joined by Dr. Isaac Hassan, a governance expert, and Mr. Mwangale Philip, an advocate and governance expert. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. And to begin, Dr. Isaac, I'd love for you to shed your thoughts on the significance of these appointments and what Kenyans can expect moving forward.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I think after the 2010 Constitution, the dynamics of appointments in Kenya has changed. The business of presidency or the executive appointing people on the streets and then taking office or assuming office became the past thing. In that, according to the Constitution, key commissions as well as cabinet secretaries are basically nominated by the president, vetted by parliamentary committees and the public in terms of public participation, or rather public trying to give their views in regards to the nominees. And of course, then parliamentarians either approving or disapproving the report that will be submitted by the parliamentary committee in charge of appointments. Now, the key important thing basically is because of accountability and suitability of individuals appointed to that positions. And the purpose of doing that basically is because of the legal framework that has been placed in our Constitution in 2010. And the important thing basically is the parliamentary committee try to understand the nominees in under the process where we call interviewing, where they try to understand the inside of that particular person. One, on academic qualifications for that particular position. Secondly, in terms of issues related to previous experience in government matters or in the role that they are being interviewed for. And finally, issues related to ethics, whether this particular person has been involved in any malpractice or corruption cases. These are the things that the panel who are vetting the nominees are expected to look into. Additionally, they are given additional information that is gathered from the public, where they are also allowed in writing to submit issues related to the nominees to the committee
27
in
countries,
reference to where they are expected to deliver that particular services. Therefore, the framework, or rather the legal framework that has been provided by the Constitution in 2010 gave the opportunity to understand who must hold certain positions of accountability within the government setup. Therefore, this process now is always has to go through that vetting, so that the conclusion is that once the parliament approves, then the nominee is sent back to the president, where the president now appoints to those nominees to the positions that earlier on nominated for. In the event that a nominee has been disallowed, either at the vetting of the committee level or at the parliament level, then the president is now obliged to appoint again another nominee for the same position, so that they go through the same process.
So in this case,
the bottom line is that the legal framework that has been established in 2010 guides the process from the beginning up to the end, contrary to before the 2010 constitution, where the president had all the mandates to appoint. Therefore, the president has only the nomination mandate. The parliamentarians scrutinize, and the suitability of that particular nominee is checked. And once it is approved by parliament, the president now gets again another mandate to appoint the person to that positions that earlier on nominated for.
Thank you very much. Now, Akili, Philip, these three nominees are coming at a crucial time at President William Ruto administration. What are they bringing to the cabinet?
Thank you for having me. To be very frank, nothing. That is our reality. These people have been at different levels of government before. Kabogo served as a county governor. Lee Kinyanjui served as governor. Mutahi Kagwe served as a CS. But to answer what exactly they bring to the table, we must address what Dr. Isaac has mentioned, the SAPs of legislative vetting of executive action. He has mentioned suitability, and suitability deals with fitness for purpose, fitness for office, and competence. I, for one, do not believe that if we are to look critically at the dockets to which they have been now approved for, you would not see that competence bit. The A is for accountability. Now, accountability deals with past actions and present dispositions. So if we are to look at the history of these individuals who are nominated by the president, what is their footprint? What is their governance footprint? What is their integrity footprint? And unfortunately, and I mean, I'm saddened to tell Kenyans that their footprint is not very good. The two former governors have had issues during their tenures in office. Mutahi Kagwe had issues when he was cabinet secretary for health. There is a pending huge scandal at KEMSA and at Ministry of Health at Afya House that he superintended over. So that cannot be said to have been given a clean bill of health. But the other P on the SAPs is predictability. This kind of exercise is supposed to determine what values these people possess. What are their philosophies? Because government action, just like with our laws, has to be predictable. We need to know this individual getting into the Ministry of Agriculture. What are we likely to see as their decisions going forward? Because their personal inclinations, philosophies, and values inform how they deal with policy. Because aside from the fact that President William Ruto micromanages ministries, at least we have heard that from the politicians themselves, the cabinet secretary has a lot to do with the direction the ministry takes. So we would have expected that Parliament would have delved deeper into these issues, but they have failed us. Now, when you hear, because we've seen and watched those interviews, I remember in one instance, one interviewee got very irritated. He was visibly angered. And the chair, the Speaker of the National Assembly, could only muster, compose yourself and answer. If you do not want to answer, then, it's sort of treating these individuals with velvet gloves. If you contrast that with what we are seeing in the United States Senate, President-elect Trump's nominees have been grilled properly. While some of them may be approved, the public is able to see who these individuals are. So if you had past issues, those issues will be brought to the fore. Unlike what we have in our case, citizens may, send emails to the committee, and then the individual who is being called for the interview is sent those queries that have been forwarded. And when he appears, the chair of the committee says, there are some questions that we sent to you, and you have answered them to our satisfaction. Now, that is a failure for me, because it is not the committee that inquired or sent these queries. It is a citizen out there. It is incumbent upon the committee to also satisfy the public that the individuals who are going to superintend over these ministries are people that the public should trust. So I think there's a big gap in Parliament. And let me just conclude on that point by saying, to the chagrin of Parliament itself and many who support this government, that this National Assembly specifically is perhaps one of the most important parliaments, if not in the Commonwealth, then across the globe. Because what they are supposed to do, and actually what they end up achieving, is somehow incidental to what they set out to do. They have somehow managed miraculously to set a very low target, a very low bar, and we have no option but to celebrate them when they meet their targets, and that is unfortunate. So I don't think these new cabinet secretaries are bringing anything new to the table. It will be same old,
very
same old.
interesting point.
I think Wakili touched on pertinent issues in Parliament. And I never thought he will go far like that. He has gone actually deep into Parliament.
Yes,
but,
he has. But before we delve into what Wakili has said, allow us to take a short break. Then we will be right back to further expound on what Wakili has said. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back right here on KBC Prime Edition. Welcome back to KBC Prime Edition. I am with Dr. Isaac Hassan, a governance expert, and Wakili Mwangale Philip, who is also a governance expert and advocate, and they are shedding more light on the significance of the appointments of the three cabinet secretaries, that is Mr. Lee Kinyanjui, William Kabogo, and Mutahi Kagwe. So before we took a short break, we were looking into this. And Wakili Isaac, I'd love for you to tell us, what do you think would be the first assignment upon resumption into office after the swearing-in ceremony that will take place tomorrow right here on KBC Channel 1 at 10 a.m.? Right.
I think before I go to what is there for them in their tray and what we expect from them, I want to touch slightly on the dynamics in the political process, because the vetting sometimes is influenced by the political process. And the biggest challenge is issues related to political affiliations and public opinions. And sometimes you will realize that the parliamentarians will fail you in their role as representative of the people to ensure that people who are nominated for public offices are vetted through the processes that are ordinarily expected by the law. That never happens because the political influence, affiliation issues, and of course the needs of other individuals who probably their appointment was backed by tribal balancing will go into play a role. When we come to what is in their tray, we don't expect a lot from cabinet secretaries. Ideally, state departments where the cabinet, or the ministries where the cabinet heads have technical people who are headed by the principal secretaries. And these are the people we expect them to deliver in their respective roles as a technical people within that ministry. The cabinet secretary plays the optic role in terms of policy issues, policy dissemination, and playing a link between policy formation to between the parliament and the legislative arm of the government and the ministry or the executive. And of course, their role is purely supporting the executive and the presidency. And if they are expected to do that, we have had experience in the previous cabinet secretaries who took the role of permanent principal secretaries or even the technical people in the ministry. And eventually they were left with, because technical team have a very unique way of dealing with people who do not understand their role when they are given certain tasks. Because they are the boss, they leave them out, and then the ministry's performance collapses. And I tend to think Kagwe will not going to have something like that, because he has already had his better part of his experience as a cabinet secretary. My fear is the two governors who are being exposed to the executive role at the national level at the moment, and they might go in there with a political sound where they think now they have been given a ministry to man the way they want it, like the way our governors manage their counties, contrary to the way the normal procedures, policies, and of course the law dictates. None of them follow that. So if they tow and learn from the previous cabinets who have failed in their roles, and probably they have been replaced because of performance, then they might sail in very quickly and pick up their role very quickly and try to play the pivotal role they are expected to play. But if they go in with the egoism or the kind of cabinet secretaries we have seen previously in different state ministries, then we don't expect a lot from them. They might actually even collapse the existing functions and systems that are in place if they will not learn to work with the technical people running those ministries.
So, Wakili Philip, we're looking at the three cabinet secretaries, Lee Kinyanjui, Trade, Kabogo ICT, and Kagwe Agriculture. What do you think will be their first assignment?
They will now be, playing at the direction of the president. But one of the interesting things to remember is that these are former President Uhuru's nominees, if we were to look at it strictly.
No, from the previous regime.
Not exactly. They came after William Ruto, the president, met Uhuru Kenyatta. President William Ruto would never have appointed Mutahi Kagwe for anything. That was not his direct decision. And that is from those of us who are reading things from the outside. I doubt that President William Ruto would have, by his own on his own volition, appointed Lee Kinyanjui for anything. So these are stricto sensu President Uhuru Kenyatta's nominees. They are his nominees by proxy. I would say
your
that.
words.
Yes, my observation. Yeah, those are my observations. But in terms of what they should set out to achieve, if at all they want to survive in this government, then I think they should just carry out the directions of the president. Because and I still insist that it appears that there is a heavier hand that comes from the office of the president into the ministries than we have been used to seeing. So one of the things that Mutahi Kagwe should do in agriculture is to address the perennial issue of farm inputs, fertilizer, the foremost of all. Mithika Linturi went away on the backdrop of a fertilizer scandal. So if, as he had promised us, though he did not do anything about it in the Ministry of Health, if he addresses fertilizer cartels, if he manages to do that, and that would mean that he's biting off the hand that is feeding him, then he would have made a mark at the Ministry of Agriculture. I have no hopes. I have no hopes with the ICT ministry because, again, I talked about competence. There is nothing about William Kabogo that screams ICT or screams innovation. So I am lost at what exactly he will be doing in that ministry. In terms of trade and investment, my hope is that that ministry will come alive. Because the Kenya Kwanza government has promised us, good things. Though again, we must measure our hopes because they promised us the heavens in 2022. and we are at the gates of Sheol, as it were. So that ministry, the Ministry of Trade, should come alive and make sure that, because we are heading into a season, in my view, of bilateral trade engagements, especially this year onwards, we should get to a point where trade is coming alive. They should champion the decrease and doing away of certain taxes that we have been crying are stifling the business environment.
Okay.
No,
So I think we are actually out of time.
I think I just want to say one thing.
In 1
because,
second.
Yeah, maybe in 2 or 3 seconds, if you allow me.
Yeah.
Wakili, from the point where when the government started appointing, everyone comes from certain backyard. And therefore, when someone has been nominated, perhaps I will not want to relate him to the assumption that he is representing someone, because when ODM was chair was appointed into cabinet, everybody talked about Raila's nominees. But the point is that you are picked as a Kenyan, and the moment someone says, nominate for me this person, then all other factors come to play. Yeah, qualification, exactly. Qualification and other things. As an individual now, we need to look at it as an individual. But quickly,
in 1 second,
yes,
because we're actually out of time.
I think the CS must look at issues related to policy implementation.
Okay.
Public
All CSs?
Exact.
Okay.
Public service delivery, corruption and accountability within the ministry, interagency collaboration, and their stakeholders engagement. Their key issues: resource allocation within the ministry, human resource management, crisis management. These are things that we expect from any CS once you are given the appointment. Once he looks at those issues, he does not have to impress anyone. He takes up his role and makes sure that the deliverables that are expected out of him are addressed with immediate effect. And all those things comes in a package form as soon as he lands in the state ministry. So I think that is how it goes.
Okay. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us this evening to talk about the significance of the appointments of the 3 CSs, a function that we will see be crowned tomorrow at 10 a.m. for the swearing in of the CSs. Thank you very much for making time for us. I do appreciate.